All right, it looks like we are live. So we're going to get started here in just a second. Just want to give folks a chance to come in. Um, Thank you for being here. All right. So on today's stream, what we're going to be doing is we're actually have this going normal, like a normal live stream, but I'm also going to be streaming this to the YouTube Shorts feed. So it'll be I'll be interested to see if that makes a difference on how many people actually hop on the stream or not. And hopefully there's no technical difficulties or anything like that. But yeah, what we'll do is let's just go ahead. We'll get started. I just want to say hello. And if you're new to this channel, I make videos about reading, learning, and self education. And so this is the first live stream on this channel. And please forgive me if it's terrible. But I want to just say thank you for being here. And for those of you that are watching on the replay, thank you for being here as well. Throughout the stream, if you have questions, drop them down in the chat, or if you have questions on the replay, let me know down in the comments. I hope everybody's New Year's off to a good start. Today was this year's been better for me. I feel like it was a better start this year than it was last year. Today it snowed and I got to play out in the snow with my little girl. If you're from Georgia, you know it doesn't snow too often, and whenever it does snow, it's a treat. When I was in the military, I've been in various different places from Japan, North Carolina, Missouri, and I've seen the snow in all those different places. But if you've being folks from Georgia, my family included, they lose their minds whenever it snows. Like for me, I still enjoy it. It's pretty, but I don't want it to stay for a long time because it can be a pain in the butt. But okay, so again, if you're new here, I make videos about reading, learning, and self-education, and really with an emphasis really on personal development, whether that's reading like self-help books or that's reading the classics. I try to do a variety of both. And again, I don't want to pose myself as being a guru because I'm still trying to figure out this just as much as everyone. So again, I hope everybody's New Year's off to a good start. I got a couple of announcements that I want to make. So right now, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with the content on the channel, but we went from posting 2 videos a week and like a short to now I'm posting every single day. And so I'll post 2 long forms videos a week, and I'm striving to post that on Mondays and Thursdays. And then every other day is going to be posting at least 1 short. So literally 7 days a week, there'll be content on the channel. So stay tuned and check out the new content. And I would love to get you all's feedback on just ways that the content could be improved, things that you like, things that you don't like. And then something else that I might be doing is going live here. I haven't ever went live on this channel before. And again, this is just an opportunity. I don't know what this really should look like. Do you want like tips on a live stream, or would you prefer like more of a hangout and Q&A style? I would just love to get your feedback and let me know down in the comments. And there's another announcement that I'll announce at the end of the stream. But yeah, let me just get into it. So right now I'm reading How to Read a Book by, this is Mortimer Adler and Charles Van Dorden's. This is their book. And for the longest time, I got back into reading whenever I was in my adult life. It was later in my adult life. I got back into it through listening to audiobooks and with Audible. And we had assignments that came from my leadership in the military. Like I remember when I really specifically got back into reading, we had to read this book called Black Hearts. And if you're familiar or if you're not familiar, it's a military book. It was a part of the Commandant's reading list. And it talks about, well, it's really just about bad leadership and how ultimately it led to a few soldiers doing some pretty horrific things. And after that, I was like, man, I actually saw the value in reading at that point, because we listened to the book and some of us read it. You know, for me at the time, I was just like, I'm just going to listen to it because I hate reading at that point in my life. I wasn't good at reading in school. And so I just listened to it and I was like, man, this is actually pretty cool. So then I picked up Crush It by Gary Vee. And that's whenever like my social media journey just kind of became a thing. And so I started listening to audiobooks, and I think that's great for anybody that's just getting into reading, is just to start as easy as possible. And because you ultimately you want to build an identity around being the reader. And I'll tell you, if you haven't gotten into reading books and you want to make it a habit, that just do a free trial of Audible and get a book that you think you'd be interested in, like just something that you're curious about. Don't worry about something specific. But for me, it was like I read that book because I was like kind of voluntold, or we were forced to read it because we had to do a discussion on it. And then it just snowballed into me getting other books. And after I read Crush It by Gary, or listened to Crush It by Gary Vee, I don't remember some of the other books. There were other books related to social media and some of the stuff that I saw on YouTube that was recommended. And that snowballed into, eventually what happened was, is like these books, some of these books were so good that I bought the physical copies. And I started to say like, well, what is, like, I saw some stuff online about like how you can technically read with your eyes and consume information faster than you can listen and process information. So I thought, hey, maybe there's some value in actually being able to read, like not listen, but actually read a book. And so I just started picking up some of the shorter books that I was interested in, and ultimately it became easy, right? I started to realize that I retained a lot more whenever I actually read the physical book, because whenever I listened to the book, I was doing things passively, whether that was like doing chores around my house or doing like all kinds of different things on my commute. So I said, well, let's just see the value, and let's just look and see if we can see the value in reading an actual physical book. And so with that, I then got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, how do I take as much from the book as I possibly can? And that turned into, well, me just taking as many notes as I possibly could. And at first, I was just using like a Google Docs app, and then I found Obsidian, and I've written pages and pages and pages of notes. So what I did last year is I read the book Make It Stick, which I have right here. Oh, that'll be all right. I got Make It Stick. And I read this because I was like, well, how can I take the most stuff from the books that I read? And this is an outstanding book. If you want to get into, if you want to just like maximize what you get from books whenever you're, and just really understand anything in the self education world, well, Make It Stick is a necessity in my opinion, because it just breaks down the science of learning. But I read that book, and then I just kind of, it gave me an idea like, okay, well, I don't necessarily have to write all these crazy amounts of notes. And it also helped me kind of tailor the way that I take notes, because, well, linear note taking isn't always the most effective way of taking, or actually our brains being able to make knowledge sticky. So I started to kind of go down that rabbit hole of like, well, how do I kind of hack this learning thing? Is it, and a lot of it, I was overthinking it. It's a lot more simple. It's like a lot of these things were done with school, like testing ourselves on the material, taking some time away from the material to kind of allow some time for forgetting to occur, and then retesting yourself. So that's the active recall part of it. But then there's also like elaboration, being like you elaborate on specific things in like that you're learning, so that you can really, it looks like we got somebody here on the stream. So thank you for hopping on, Hussey. Good to see you, sir. But you have elaboration, which is where you take something from a book that you read, and you kind of tie it and relate it to something that you already know, and you summarize it in your own words. And what I'm getting at is like there's a lot better way. There's a method to it. The science behind actually learning was more than just taking notes for me. So now what I do is, well, I try to just simplify that process. And so I picked up this book right here, How to Read a Book, and there's a whole step by step process. And at the very end of the video, I've kind of built something that I'll talk more about here at the end of the video, or this stream, that will, I feel like, help anybody that's wanting to become a better reader, or just to be a reader in general. Um, and so I read this book, How to Read a Book, and then it just completely blew my mind, because some of the most simple things, I don't know why I didn't even I didn't feel like I to could do, because I was following these rules that I've kind of created in my own head. And, well, he says that, the first thing that we want to do, right, is to well, let me know for you, right down in the chat, or let me know if you're watching the replay down in the comments. Does reading ever feel like work for you? Because for me, it did. Ultimately, what happened was I was listening to these audiobooks, I was reading these physical books, I was taking these crazy amounts of notes, and I would never go back and look at the material, and I didn't really make any progress. So I would read the book, but then a few months would go by, and it would pretty much be gone. All the information. Like I could go back, listen, or like look at the pages of that book that I just read, and I wouldn't even recognize some of the materials, like I was reading it for the first time all over again. And so, let me know down in the chat if reading ever feels like work for you. And what I'm going to do now is kind of talk about what some of the things that I've taken from the book so far. And again, if Mike, anything like that, if anything seems off with the stream, let me know, and I'll make some adjustments. But so the first step is pre-reading and or inspectional reading. And the book talks about like, well, you can go through the book and skim through. Like a lot of people are proponents for like speed reading. I'm not really one to speed read, but I do think that skimming and pre-reading a book is good because it's like watching a movie for the first time, right? When you watch a movie for the first time, or you don't really have an idea of what's going on, you don't have much context. But then if you watch it a second time, you go into the movie with more context, and you actually were able to spot different things, and you're able to take away more of what's going on in the story. So pre-reading is just like that, right? So when you pre-read a book, you're looking at the table of contents. You are just kind of looking at all the different, like read summaries from the chapter, right? So Atomic Habits is a great book. They have summaries at the end of every single chapter. You read all those summaries, and for me, I used to think, well, you can't do that because you're going to spoil the book or you're just going to overwhelm yourself. But once I actually pre-read the book, looking at like just the summaries of each chapter, whether if they don't have that, then you can look at the last paragraph of each chapter. And just looking at the table of contents, I knew what I was walking into before I actually fully read the book. And so skimming through the book allowed me to kind of have in my notes an idea of, well, what this book is about to present to me. What are the arguments that the author is going to present? And I love that the book, it breaks down like a book is just communication between an author and the reader, and the burden of for the author is that ability to be able to communicate their thoughts or their ideas to the reader. The burden of the reader is to be able to absorb the information that the author is presenting. So like that's things like certain authors will have a pretty like broad vocabulary, and if you don't understand certain words, then it's the burden is on the reader to be able to understand that. And so that I don't want to go get too far ahead of myself, but skimming the book will help give you a better understanding of where the author is trying to take you, and will kind of set your mind up. I didn't do this before. Like I just would listen to a book from start to finish, and then I would kind of read or listen to it over and over, or I would read it over and over. And usually the second time I read a book, it was always helpful, but I didn't realize that I could probably get more out of a book the first time I read it if I just would have pre-read the book. So I also like to create a mind map for like all the main ideas for like, so that's, you can do this with like, you don't have to overcomplicate it, but just like think about what you learned in school whenever you're brainstorming before you write an essay. So you have like what the book's main idea is and all the different points around it. So you can experiment with a mind map as well. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, or let me know down in the chat if you pre-read books before you actually dive into them. This was something that I don't know why I never thought about it, but it's something that was incredibly helpful for me. And it's also something that helps you. It's more satisfying because like, even if I don't get into a book tonight because I'm doing this live stream, I'll probably look into, I'll keep skimming. And this doesn't have to happen all in one sitting. I'll keep skimming one of the books that I'm getting ready to read. So right now I'm reading a couple of different books. I'm reading How to Read a Book. I'm reading Purple Cow by Seth Godin, which is really good for anyone that's in the content space or that also business owners. And I'm reading Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And now one might be like, well, that's a lot of friggin' books to be reading at the same time. And it is, but if you read Make It Stick, it talks about interleaving, and it talks about how if you basically you want to mix up the things that you're doing, because ultimately it's like the example that's given in Make It Stick is like you mix up the pitches that the pitcher throws whenever you play baseball, right? So if you only practice, which is like bulk practice or whatever they call it, where you only practice one type of pitch, where you only get used to that type of pitch. But they did an experiment where they had two hitters. One hit the same type of ball every single time they practiced. The other had it mixed up, and ultimately the one that the other hitter that had the mixed up pitches was actually ended up being a better hitter in the long run. So it's neuros well, learning psychology has shown that you actually it's more effective. It's not the most fun, and it's not widely accepted by students and things like that in academia, but it is something that is effective. Just a lot of people don't like doing it because it can be overwhelming. Um, uh, the Hungry Husky says, "I'm notorious for buying books, reading some, and then never picking it back up. I want to read more, but cannot get past a certain spot." Yeah, so for me, and I've struggled with that as well. Um, what I'll do is I've picked up books in the past where I'll just read like the first chapter, and that's pretty much it. And there's a couple of ways to think about that or approach that. For me, it depends on how determined you are to read the book. I always tell people it's like, what's your goal? Like with it when you're looking at books, I used to think that it was like, hey, I need to read a book that people tell me to read. Or it's like a bestseller or highly recommended, and not really considering what my goals were. And once I started to consider what my goals were, then curiosity came with that, right? So, um, Matt, this is probably a book that you're familiar with, but I was recommended this book for growing my YouTube channel. It's called Superfans by Pat Flynn. He's a YouTuber as well. And this book I just devoured. Like I devoured it because it was like something that I was like really, really interested in. Um, and it was a goal of mine to like learn YouTube and learn how to build a fan base. And so I found the most easiest thing is I started to think about like if I were to what things in my life are effortless to read, because we read every single day, whether it's for our work, we just don't necessarily sit down and read a book. So the first step for me was just to find things I was actually curious about, and then it was like picking a time that I was going to do it and being flexible with that time. Like some days I'm going to do it, but I'm going to always try to get back to it. And some days I'm not going to have the energy to read a whole lot, where I'll just read a few pages. I'll always just try to show up and read a couple of pages if I can. And if not, like give myself some grace and just try to get back to it the next day. But um, the things that have happened for me is like these. I'll read books and I'm not interested in. I have a couple of books over here that like I've been trying to read. Where's it at? I don't know where it's at right now, but I've been trying to read Good to Great by Jim Collins, and I just can't get past the first chapter because it just doesn't seem like it's something I'm super interested in right now. But it's definitely something that I want to read at some point. So once you've done that, I think that the habit part is just trying to making it. It's really just making it a habit and part of your routine, and that it's easier said than done, especially on having kids. If you have kids, that's another thing that can be frustrating and or not necessarily frustrating having kids, but it can be frustrating to like find time to be able to do that because you're like, man, I want to do this, but where do I find the time? And for me, I just like, well, I looked at my screen time and I was like, wow, I do actually have a lot more time if I look at how much time I spend on my phone every single day. And just trying to find a medium that works best for you, right? So if you want to get into reading books, I think one of the better things to start off with would be to listen to books first. And then if once you get used to listening, you get yourself a physical copy and reading is just a skill, right? And I was going to talk about this a little bit later. But reading is a skill just like any other thing. And all it requires is just practice. And the more times you do it, the better you get at it. If you don't take time to practice, you won't really have any time to improve. And if you, right, it's like the example that's given in the book How to Read a Book talks about like reading is kind of like learning to ski, right? When you learn to ski, you got to learn like you have to learn how to balance. You have to learn how to certain types of you have certain ways that you have to move to be able to navigate down the hill. You have all these different things that you have to think about in order to keep yourself from falling. But when you think about all of them at once, you end up falling every single time. So I think it's important to just kind of focus on one specific thing that you're trying to get better at, whether that's just like opening the book and just reading for a little while. before you start thinking about like how much you can actually consume, like as far as like knowledge wise from the book. I think it's far more effective to just focus on just like just gaining a little bit of getting a little bit of momentum and trying to improve and get 1% better each time that you pick up the book. But um, yeah, that's what I would recommend if you're trying to make reading more of a consistent habit. And just know that life is going to get in the way, and there's going to be times where you're just not going to be able to read a book, and that's okay. But I always try to like reading is a good alternative for some of the other bad habits that we may have, right? So like scrolling on your social media, a good alternative for that. I think yeah, it's either in an upcoming video or I just had it done in a recent video. I can't remember where it talked about like you can doom scroll this entire stack of books right here. Like open the book, read for a few minutes. Once you get bored, set it down, open another book, read for a few seconds, whatever, or a minute. And well, you're reading books and you're learning stuff if it's like educational based books, and you don't have to read educational nonfiction stuff. You can read fiction too. Read what interests you and what makes you more curious. And it's like, what's the single thing that makes really like moves the needle? For me, I think it's like if it's something that you're so interested in, that really just kind of you'll find time to do the things that you really are interested in doing. Um, and and sometimes it's like there's a lot of different mediums for getting information. Like as far as like there's a lot of different ways that we can consume content these days. Like you can read like you can find The Alchemist right here. You can find this on YouTube, like a summary on YouTube, and you can think that or and you'll be like, well, I can get the whole book. Why read the whole book whenever I can just get a summary of it in 15 minutes? And I think that there's a lot more benefits to a book than just like what you the the takeaways from it, because learning doesn't happen that way. And when I read Make It Stick, I realized that like it's not all about reading summaries, because when you read summaries or listen to summaries, you're not getting the depth. You're not taking the time. Learning when you're trying to learn skills, it requires time and practice. Uh, in order for neuro pathways to strengthen, the more times that you present or you, it's like playing the guitar. Whenever I was learning to play guitar, it's like I had to take some time away and then I had to come back to it. And reading a book, if it was all about just like getting knowledge from the summaries, then I feel like everybody would be where they want to be at with their goals and everything for what their reading goals are. Um, Now that I'm a runner, what do you think about training yourself almost the running, like running a mile, going spurs maybe? Is that a good method to get started? Yeah, yeah. So like a specific like plan for reading. Is that what you're relating to, Matt? If you're talking about like specifically for like a plan, yeah, I wouldn't try to for me, I wouldn't try to sell yourself short. I would just try to like because if you set a specific thing for yourself, you could set a goal for yourself. I think that's the most important thing. And for sure, yeah, a lot of people I get what you're saying now. A lot of people aren't going to be able to finish a book from start to finish. Like pick something easy that you're interested in, right? There's a number of recommendations that I could make. As far as books that are great for anyone to read and that are easy to read, I don't recommend starting with things like the classics, um, like the discourses of Epictetus or classic philosophy and stuff, because that stuff is super dense. But if you read something like the 12-week year or just something that you were interested in, I think the best thing would to be is to just like to just focus on reading just a little bit every single day where you have small pockets of time, and try to set reminders for yourself to like say, hey, this is what I want to do. And I need to make progress in it. And it does take practice. It's more like it's it's doing the hard thing even whenever you don't want to do it. And I think making it a part of your routine would be a great thing to do. Um, is like setting up a time that you're going to uh, do that thing, and setting a space, right? One of the worst things that can happen, or one thing that will inevitably happen, is like when you're setting up a reading space, you want to have a space for like where you can read books and it be conducive to actually reading and learning if that's what your goal is to learn. And you don't want to have like the worst lighting to where you're straining your eyes, and like inevitably if the lighting is like good enough for you to be able to go to sleep, you will most likely go to sleep. And so try to put yourself in an environment that is conducive to reading. I don't know how some people do it. Some people can go and they can read in a coffee shop, and I mean some people can do it. Depends on your coffee shop where you're at locally. But if I go to my local Starbucks and I try to read inside of there, um, it'll probably be just nothing but overstimulation. Like, and not overstimulation in the sense that I'll freak out, but my brain would just not be able to focus on, um, not be able to focus on what I'm trying to read. And so somewhere that's quiet, somewhere that is like you can get away, like your man cave, or a space to where you feel good in. Because I think it talks about in like Atomic Habits, it's like finding a location that is uh finding a location that something I just read something about a rat on crack. I'm in a coffee shop. Um, yeah, you definitely it's super distracting if you try to if I were to try to go on a read. So if you're somebody that's just getting into reading, I don't recommend. I mean, I recommend like yeah. So I was talking about Atomic Habits. Find yourself your favorite beverage, whether that's like drinking coffee. Some people like to drink coffee. Um, and find an optimal time where you're going to have the energy to be able to do that specific thing. Like all reading is just a see going back to what I was talking about with like with different mediums that we can consume content from. We are our dopamine has been kind of like is to the max whenever we watch YouTube content. We can get that dopamine that but we won't get it from a book. And so it's like you're replacing that specific thing and just kind of like you're that's the whole social media detox philosophy is like you are desensitizing yourself and bringing your dopamine levels down. And reading is a habit that does bring down your dopamine levels, but it brings them down to a more what natural or normal baseline. I don't I'm not a neuroscientist, but I think that's what they would say is it would bring it down to a normal level. Um, but yeah, finding an environment that is going to be you're going to be happy in, and it's going to be conducive to reading. And so what that means is like minimize the amount of distractions that you have. Like for me, I come in here and I read in my office. Sometimes I'll read in my bed, but I like to read in the office here because the lighting is good. I have like a dedicated space right here at my desk, and I have a process. Like it's a whole ritual when I come and I read. Like I have a notebook down here on the floor. I have like my books. I'm surrounded by books in here, and so I feel like I'm in this reading environment where I feel like it's something that I can enjoy and do, and it feels like I feel like a reader. I mean, it did take me getting all these books for me to feel like, man, like there's a lot of work to be done here. Whenever I first got some of these books, and then it was yeah, just finding the time to be able to do it. But then I realized like I feel comfortable in this space. So once you feel comfortable, it's like just showing up and trying to do a little bit every single day. And eventually, anything like any habit, what gets measured gets done, right? So as you track that over a long time horizon, like 30 days, 60 days, and you're reading every single day. As long as you're tracking it, you will make improvements. Uh, Hungry Husky says, hopping off, buddy. Great live. Got to get locals to bed. Have a blessed night. You too, brother. Thanks for hopping on the stream, man. Yeah, but anybody that's trying to set up a reading space that is like in a place where they can read and feel comfortable reading. Like I would say don't overthink it too. I have a tendency to do that. I'm like, yeah, I need certain type of lights in here. I need to like all these. I need to have like a certain type of music going or something. Like just like there's there was a guy that said something about there's all these different ways to optimize for productivity. But there's some of the richest, most successful people on the planet are the least productive, or they eat the crappiest food and all this. Like you can still improve. It's just a matter of just practicing, right? And so I'll go on to the next thing, right? So, and it was great. I appreciate you, Matt, for going down that, because you're absolutely right. Like, if you can't even the barrier might be even like just getting in the door to reading books. And if you're struggling with just getting in the door to reading books, it's really just the first step, I think, to build the habit is just to find something that you're curious about, and then create, again, like, I'm glad you brought that up, because to create a space to where it's like you will enjoy it. And habit stacking is talked about in Atomic Habits. So get your favorite beverage, whether that's a coffee, whether it's tea, whether it's I don't know if I recommend alcohol, because I don't know how much learning you'll actually be doing, but just something that you enjoy and makes you happy. It might just be, it could even be like a Coke or an energy drink, whatever you prefer. Um, Again, whatever you're into, whatever makes you happy, and come into a space, take some time for yourself, and try to replace that scroll time that you have on your phone with some time to read. Now, you can read a physical book, you can listen to an audiobook, right? So you can get started just by like listening to an audiobook while you're doing chores around your house. And then finding, but it's really about just blocking off a time to be able to do that thing. If I was going to set a reading goal for myself to read one book in the next month, and I have had to do that, just depending on different books that I'm reading, because again, I'm human. I'm not perfect at this. There's times where I just get in a funk and I don't read. And because I'm not going to sit here and say I read 52 books a year, one book a week, because I don't. But I try to read, and I try to just get better. And again, I'm human. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? So I would put that as something that I'm going to do every single day, and I'm going to show up to do it every single day at a certain time, and not put a whole bunch of pressure on myself whenever those days where because life's going to happen, right? We got to go to work. We have to pay bills. We have to do chores around our house. We have to take care of our kids. We have all these different things that we have to do. We have to spend time with family. And those are things that you're supposed to do. Um, but reading shouldn't be this thing that just overtakes your life. It should be something that you do. If you like, before we had this, we had all of these, and we were able to, go to the library, we were able to sit down, read a book, or we were able to just kind of go to the beach, read a book. Again, I didn't do these things when I was younger, not at all. I was definitely too busy partying, too busy. I was in the military too, so I was like, the last thing that I was worried about after a hard work week was like trying to do something that kind of felt like work. And that's the thing, is just, I think the way to make it a habit is just to make it not feel like work. Don't try to read a bunch of books that you just like, I need to do this to make myself better. You're putting a whole bunch of pressure on yourself. That's gonna lead to burnout. Whenever you I think when you do that, you put a bunch of pressure on yourself, and ultimately you're not going to want to read. It's not going to be sustainable, because it's just like you're only doing it because of a certain outcome that you're looking for, right? So read things that you're interested in, and find a space, and just show up every single day and read. Try to just do at least 2%. Um, and make the first step as easy as possible. Like, read a page, and then the next day, like, you can read one book an entire year if you just read like one page a day. Um, that's like a what if you read one page a day for 365 days, there's a lot of books that you couldn't read multiple books, but there's a lot of books out there that you could read if you wanted to pick one and read it in one year. So you read one page every single day. And there's another thing, right? So I've seen out there where some people will put where's it at? I have, yeah, a book right here that has tabs on it, right? So you can put these little tabs right here. You can put these at little and make them place markers for where you're trying to read at. And you can assign it like to a week. So you put like at week 1, you have to is a tab, and week 2 is another tab, week 3 is another tab, and week 4. And ultimately by the end of the month, you will have read that book. So that's another way that you could go about doing it. If you're trying to set like a goal for yourself, and that's a great simple way to go about doing it, right? So yeah, so getting into, now that we've kind of talked about, let me know down in the chat if you have comments, but also let me know in the comments if you're watching on the replay if that was helpful, or what's been helpful for you as far as making reading a sustainable habit. Um, Again, it's not something that happens overnight, and it's something that just it does require effort. So give yourself some grace and just try to get a little bit better as you with each and every day. But yeah, so we talked about pre-reading, and I feel like pre-reading. I don't want to again, I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but pre-reading was the thing that just kind of changed everything for me. It's just that was super helpful. And if you're just showing up on the stream, what we're talking about here, we're talking about reading, learning, self education, and just like how to get to the point where or how do you retain as much knowledge as possible whenever you're reading these books? How do you get started reading? Like we covered a little bit of that earlier. If you're just showing up, make sure you go back and watch that because hopefully that was helpful. Um, Matt asked a really good question, and I'm grateful for him asking. But now what we're gonna do is we'll roll into like reading the book because I think this will be helpful for folks too, right? So when we're reading the book, I don't want for me, I used to think it was like read the book from front to back and just process and decode all the words that are in there and just kind of consume that, right? Um, and I didn't, but now I look at it kind of like I'm exploring the book, right? So what I do now instead of just reading, as I'll actually ask questions, right? So some of the questions I'll ask are, what is the book about as a whole, right? What are the main ideas, the different arguments that the author is trying to get across? Is the book true, or is it just partially true? And why does it matter, right? So these are all questions that I'm asking throughout the entire book, each chapter, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a, a better grasp on the message that the author is trying to get across to me. Because all a book is just communication, at least in the nonfiction space, like self education space. And so with that, it made me a lot more engaged whenever I was reading because I'm actively asking those questions with each chapter. And ultimately, I can walk away with the answers to those questions. So I'm looking for my answers as I'm reading. And at the same time, I do this enough times and it just makes it so that like learning becomes almost like automatic because then you start to get a deeper understanding. Sorry, my dog's, you see him over here in the background. He's come here, buddy. He's like walking around in the background. I guess he doesn't know what to do with himself. You can go lay down there. But it's just asking those questions makes it more engaging. For me, it was like when it's daunting. It's like staring at the top, like from the bottom of a mountain, and we're staring at the peak, and we're like, this is going to take forever. And asking questions each chapter is just like one rung of the ladder at a time, right? We're just taking it one rung at a time and take some time away from the book, take a break. Some of that's my best times where I've just like, I've been reading a book and then I just take a break. And then I come back and I'm like, I got the energy and I can just power through the next part. And don't be so rigid and so put so much pressure on yourself, right? I used to try to maximize the amount of things that I could get from a book. So when I was listening to audiobooks, I would re-listen to a chapter over and over and over again until I felt like I didn't miss a single detail. And then a few months would go by and I wouldn't remember anything from those chapters. And so what I'm saying is that it's don't be so rigid at first. It's like what I was talking about earlier. When you're learning to ski, don't try to be perfect in every little thing. Like just get out there and make some mistakes. Try to, just try a little bit, practice, practice, practice. And with practice, you will improve the more times that you do it. So again, I talked about it's like the burden of the author is the ability that he has to communicate, or he or she has to communicate the ideas to the reader. And the reader's burden is that they have to understand the ideas that are being presented. If you don't understand the vocabulary, then you'll have to do research to gain a greater understanding. And so that's okay. And that's why some books just require you just need to read slowly. Everybody, I think, wants to read the books as fast as possible, and yet, like, of course, I want to do that too. But the way our brains work is we can't like, we can't be a rocket scientist overnight. Like it takes time to build that knowledge and to wrestle with the material, and learning is not supposed to be. It's supposed to feel like there's supposed to be effort involved for learning to actually occur. He talks about that and Make It Stick. That learning requires effort. That moment where something feels difficult is the moment that you're learning, and when you don't understand something, and that's okay. And so that's why a lot of times it's like when something feels hard, we feel that resistance, we want to quit. And for me, I try to embrace that resistance now. I try to have that growth mindset and embrace. Come here, dude. Uh, I don't know why he's just wandering around. He's restless for order. Probably because I'm talking and he's not used to me going live and talking. Um, but yeah, embracing that, having that growth mindset and embracing those challenges and looking at them as opportunities to learn, even if there's setbacks, and even if it feels like it takes a little bit longer, right? Um, so as far as like taking notes, I tried highlighting, I tried underlining, tried like long linear notes, but none of those really worked for me. So now what I do is I summarize the key takeaways from each chapter into like a mind map. And there's no like, I'm not saying like try to improve your mind maps over time, but don't overthink it. Like those things aren't supposed to, like, some people they look crazy, they look insane. For me, it's like it's simple. Like chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. Like at first, make it simple. Put the main points, summarize what those were from the chapters, answer those questions that I just stated earlier. If you can't remember, go back and rewatch that and write down those questions. And they're in the book too. Those questions were pulled directly from this book here, and great questions to ask. Um, so again, I'll summarize those things and then I'll try to make those connections inside of my mind too. So that's like where, well, they talked about, like, for example, it talks about procrastination in the 12-week year. It talks about like the power of deadlines and why they're so important. And before I even got to the section, I think they talk about it in the 12-week year, but I was like, yeah, of course. I know that because Parkinson's law. I understand deadlines are important because Parkinson's law, a task will extend to fill the time that you give it. And so ultimately, when you shorten that time, it'll take you that time to that's why when you get up in the morning and you're running late for work, you can get out the door in 5 minutes. But if you give yourself an hour, it'll take you an hour to get out the door. So again, trying to take those things and connect them to things you already know or other things that the author is talking about in the book. Basically, what you're trying to do is get inside of the author's head, and you're trying to figure out, where did all this information come from? What was he thinking about? What was she thinking about whenever she wrote this? And so, and then the last thing, yeah. Again, if you see me looking over here, I have notes because I want to make sure that I'm keeping everything on track, the things that all I wanted to talk about, and also try to be respectful of your time. Um, is to choose one action that you're going to take in the next 24 to 48 hours. This is important because you can take all the notes in the world if you want that you want, but an ounce of action is worth a ton of theory, right? So you taking action is way more powerful than just taking a whole bunch of notes because of the feedback that you get from taking action. Because when you take action, you're doing active recall, which is the whole testing thing. You're remembering what you learned and you're applying it in the real world. And it becomes an experience that you now have, and you've learned something because you've gotten feedback. And then you go and you do that again, you improve, you get feedback, you know, you analyze what your thought process, and then you ultimately, until you understand what you're doing, and you have a better understanding. So that would be one of those things, right? So if you're wanting something that's like, just, you got to apply. There's certain people that'll read like an entire book and they'll be like, hey, I'm just going to apply all the action steps that are. I advise against that because action is the most powerful thing. If you want to make progress in your life, I think taking action is the number one thing. Again, because it just, you're going to get so much more out of taking action than you would just keeping it all up here, keeping it all in your notes. Like, nobody learns how to fight by just watching a bunch of videos on how to fight. Like boxers, they have to watch tape and they have to actually go out and get in the ring and get they have to take a few punches. They have to throw a few punches to better understand the way it works, the way your body deals with that stress, the way the feedback you need that. So I'd love to know how you all take notes. Do you use Obsidian? Do you guys write linear notes? Or is it something that you do mind maps? Um, Mind mapping is a new thing for me that I started like the end of last year or towards the end of last year. And it's like it's the simple, most effective way of being able to retain information. Like I used to be the guy that would be in class, like anytime that I was like doing a course in the military, like I'd be taking notes, listening to the instructor, and I felt like I had to write down every single thing. But then it got to a point where like I would just not write notes. And I would actually find myself getting more from the instructor by sitting there and listening to the lecture more than taking notes. And so I don't feel like that. I think this may be something that happens that gets taught to students that like, hey, taking notes is the end all be all. But I'm here to say scientifically, it's not. If you do the research, it'll tell you that there's even more effective ways than just taking tons and tons of notes. It's just one of those things that we're taught in school. But yeah, let me know. Throw it down in the chat if you're watching live, or let me know on the replay down in the comments. But and I'm always open to new ideas to hear from different people on like ways and things that you can do to better improve your learning, whether through note taking. Let's see. We got someone here live says hello. Rita dress design and stitching. Thank you. Thanks for hopping on the stream. Good morning. Let me know where you're watching from. Thanks for hopping on the stream. What we're talking about is just learning, self-education, reading books. We were talking about a little bit earlier about like how to build a reading habit at first, and then like once you build the reading habit, how you can improve your skills as a reader and a learner. And yeah, from India. Well, thanks for hopping on the stream. I don't know. Let me know, is it cold over there in India right now? We just got some snow today. We don't, where I live at in the US, we don't usually get snow here. And it was a treat. I'm not sure what the temperature is like over in India right now. But yeah, thanks for being here live. It's cool to see you here. But yeah, I'm always open to new ways to take notes or figure out ways that I can improve my process. I think simple is always better. It's been better for me is because anytime that I'm like, there was times where I would procrastinate reading books because I felt like, yeah, there's a whole process to it. I'm going to read the book. I got to take notes in every single chapter. I got to make sure they're nice and detailed. No, that's okay. I appreciate you being here on the stream. That's cool. But yeah, I procrastinate even reading books because of the amount of effort that had to go into taking all the notes. And so I wouldn't read the books because I didn't want to take the notes. And it just felt like school. And so now what I do is like, hey, read the book, make the process simple, ask the questions, put the things on my mind map, test myself on the information, and move on. Make that as make it as simple as it can possibly be. All right. And after that, that's like the post reading part, right? So once you're done reading the book, this is why a lot of people recommend writing essays in school. And I don't think essays are a bad thing. It's just like when you hear the word essays, there's always a negative connotation I feel like associated with that because of probably the bad experiences that we've had in school. But basically, an essay is just like something that you just take everything that you learn from that book and you state what the whole book is about, right? Now, you can do it in the essay form, but what the book teaches, and again, a lot of this is coming from How to Read a Book. Let me know how you let me know how you found the stream. Did you find it in the shorts feed, or did you find it like on the as a thumbnail on YouTube? But yeah, because I'm streaming to both. I'm streaming like a regular live stream, but this should also be streaming to the shorts feed as well. So I'm interested as far as like discovery and everything like that. But thank you for liking the stream as well. But the book talks about you want to summarize the book in just a few sentences, like everything that the book is about, in like no more than a paragraph. And then I asked myself, do I understand all the problems as well as the solutions that the author presented? Um, and so ultimately, it's kind of like you want to try to cover all the ground that was made in the book. And the book talks about like you ultimately want to outline what the book that you're reading is, and outline meaning like all the different sub points and ideas that the author is presenting, but do it in a way to where it's realistic, right? Because there's some books out there that are massive that it almost would feel impossible to outline the entire book because it took the author years and years to make. So would that be, if that's the case, just try to do your best, try to and again, you can always revisit the information. um Thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, reading is a skill. The book talks about the whole skiing example, how there's many different things that you have to learn and you want to be great at, but it just takes time, and the more times that you do it, the better you're going to get at it. You just got to get out there and you got to do it. If you focus on those things when you first start, you're like all these different things, you're undoubtedly going to fall and fail. Um, it's about focusing, like actually focusing and improving a little bit in each area as you practice, right? So I want to take some time. If you guys have any questions, let me know down. You can let me know down in the comments. I'm going to be reading those after this, and then I'm going to make my announcement here in just a second. But my final announcement for the stream. But if you have any questions about reading, learning, self education, let me know down in the chat or down in the comments. I'd love to get your feedback on what you thought about the stream. Was this helpful? Was there things that you would like to see improved? And yeah, this was fun. I don't normally I haven't ever went live on this channel. Again, I talked about earlier in the stream how I'm posting videos every single day. So like if on the days that I'll post 2 long form videos each week, but I'm also posting a short every single day that I'm not posting a long form video. So there's content coming out every single day, and I'd love to get everyone's feedback on that. If there are no questions, that's okay too. Just give everybody a second to let me know if you have any questions. All right, yeah. So what I have, if you look down, so what I've created a bookmark that you can print and use for your when you read your own books, to help make your reading process a little bit more um, effective, I think is the right word. Again, it's taking some of the principles from this book and then principles that I've learned from Make It Stick and other books on learning science, and keeping it as like a checklist that you can put inside of your book, and you can just do that checklist as you're reading, and it'll keep you focused. Right? It has the questions that you want to ask. It has other things in there too. So if you want to check out this, it's a free bookmark that you can download. Again, it is gonna ask for your email, and I'm not gonna send you any emails right now. Again, it's totally up to you. You don't have to give your email. You don't have to get the bookmark, but I'm just throwing out there to for folks that want it. And also, it just by you giving your email, it's just another way that we can help kind of build this community, because there's no real way for me to communicate with everyone right now here on YouTube, because, well, the only means of communication that I have really is here on the live stream, or on like responding to the comments that you all leave on the videos. So it's a cool way to interact with you all. But again, I made the bookmark to make it easy for everyone or more, to make reading feel less overwhelming, and for you to be able to take in and learn more from what you read and retain more. So again, I hope, let me know. Let me know your feedback on it too, right? If there's some ways that it needs to be improved, I'll make adjustments to it. I've used it and it's been helpful for me. And again, I wouldn't be releasing it publicly if I didn't feel like it was something that I used and it was actually beneficial to me. I can say that honestly, you don't even have to read this book over here or read Make It Stick, and it can help you make progress in your learning. So you can read more books and you can retain more from what you learn in those books. So ultimately, guys, this has been just want to just say that you have this, like, you just gotta just it's you can make reading your thing in 2026, and self-education your thing. You have this, and it's just like surrounding yourself with a people or a group of people that are going to support you. So everybody here on this channel, I don't want anybody here that's not going to support each other. So again, this is it, reading can be something that's overwhelming, and it can be stressful, and it can be something that also you just don't want to do. And so for years, I put a bunch of pressure on myself that I need to be able to do all these things. I need to understand all these things. But um, with the help of a few people in the group of people that I have, they've been super helpful in just kind of supporting me in this journey. So I love to, if you're new to the stream or you're new to the channel, uh, subscribe for more videos. I'm posting a piece of content every single day, whether it's a short or long form video. We're posting 2 long form videos a week, and I'd love to have you on board. And I just look forward to what this journey is going to look like. We reached 100 subscribers in like 6 7 months of having this channel, and that's super exciting, man. I just love that I've been able to impact or be help that many people, and that's what I want to be able to do. Right, for me personally, it's been I since I've been out of the military, it's been hard to find a mentor. And I was that for my Marines in the military, and I want to be able to do that for someone that is struggling. Um, I want to be able to do that for someone that is looking for some help, and hopefully, the content that I'm making here will be something that can be life changing for someone, and whether that's like helping them read the book that changes their life, or helping them find the source of information that's going to set them on the right path. Um, or just to be someone that can just be uh yeah, just someone that can just be there to provide you some support, right? So, again, you can do this. Let me know what your reading goals are for 2026 down in the chat or in the comments. I'm not going to make this any longer than it has to be. We've been here for almost an hour. I hope I had fun doing this. I hope my dog enjoyed it too. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, it's cool. Read address design and stitching says, um, where are you from? In the United States. Oh, I'm from Georgia. So usually it doesn't snow here at all. It's usually like pretty warm all year. Like, it does get cold in the wintertime here. But usually it's pretty warm most of the year round. Like, we got some snow in Florida this year. So it's yeah, it's pretty crazy that it doesn't ever really snow in Florida. But yeah, don't want to make this any longer than it has to be for everyone. If you're watching on the replay, thanks for being here. Thank you for everyone that stuck around live. I was surprised to see that I didn't know how this was going to work out. And let me know again some things that you would like to see in future streams. I've had all kinds of thoughts. I'm like, do we read a book? Do we talk about a book? Do we do like a reading series where we kind of go through a book and talk about it? I don't really know what you all would like. And I'd love to know your thoughts, or just to get some ideas from you all, because we're, we all have good ideas, and I need help in that aspect. So yeah, thank you guys. Hope you have a good week. I'm not sure if everybody has to work. Tomorrow is MLK Day, so not sure if you have to work, but hope you guys have a good week. And yeah, we'll see, or keep learning, keep growing, keep going, and we'll see you in the next video. You guys have a good night.